Welcome to our January Shop Owner Roundtable. We got a great panel of guests today. So first, joining me as a new co-host is Peter Cooper. So good to see you, Peter.
Thanks.
You're on a different side of the table this time.
I am this time.
So it's great to have you. My longtime co-host, Chris O'Brien, had a retirement celebration at the end of December. So Peter's going to be joining me going forward, hopefully as the new co-host. And Peter, you were a longtime Full Bay customer, been involved in the heavy-duty industry for 25 plus years. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing today.
So now I kind of took some of my favorite things about the industry, working with shops and education. And now I'm doing consulting where I'm helping shops get the most out of what they can using efficiency and software and utilizing all those together.
All right. So, and the company is Ascend Consulting, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Congrats on that. And thanks for joining me. And then we've got a great group of customers with us today. So we got Dick and Mike and Mandy. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I will let you turn it over to you guys to maybe do a quick introduction of yourselves. And then Dick will get the Bascom story from you.
So my name is Dick Bascom, and I founded Bascom Truck and Auto in 1975.
I am Mike Bascom. I'm the general manager and have been since, I believe, 2014.
And I am Mandy McWilliams. Mike is my brother. Dick is my dad. I do finance and HR.
Awesome. I forgot one thing before we get you to give us the story. I'll give my standard disclaimer. So we're gonna get some great tips and tricks and advice on things that you guys have done growing your shop. But everyone's situation is unique, right? We're here to share experiences, not to give perfect advice for you. So make sure you consult your own advisors and folks for anything specific to you. But with that, let's hear the Bascom story. So you were telling me this last night at dinner, and what a fascinating story and a great journey that you've had. Can you share that with the audience a little bit about the story?
Yeah, so just briefly, I graduated from high school in 1973 and got married in 1973. And then by 1974, I was working as a mechanic for a freight company. And they had a truck shop attached to their terminal building, and I would just work for them on their trucks. And the shop area was 4,500 square feet, and I was the only one. And then it came out that they would rather rent the shop out and contract their work rather than having an employee. And so I was able to work a deal, and I rented that building. And so that's how we started. We started in 1975. And as we worked on their trucks, then other freight companies wanted us to work on trucks for them and some independents. And so we saw the need to hire some people. And so we started hiring techs. And that went on until 1997. And at that time, that freight company ran out of money after 80 years and went broke. So the new people that had the building raised the rent a lot. And so we started looking around for a place to expand. So we were still in 4,500 square feet, but we had 10 mechanics working. And so we were working in the parking lot, and we were working 2 shifts, and we were stumbling over each other, and it was crowded. So we found some land, and we were able to build a building, and that building was 11,000 square feet. And so when we moved in there, we thought, this is heaven. We will never fill this building. And that was we moved in there in 1999. And then Mike and Mandy came on board in about 2003, I believe, when they got out of college. And we were able to expand and grow. And so by 2011, we could see that 11,000 square feet was full. And so we took on the project to add on. So we added on to the building 14,000 square feet more. And so then that gave us opportunity to expand and grow some more. And so we were able to hire some more techs. Eventually we put in our own parts department. And so today we're operating out of that facility. And I don't know the number of employees, in the range of 35, maybe something like that.
Somewhere in there.
And so we've just been fortunate to be able to grow like that.
Yeah, that's been really great growth. And I don't know if we covered that up in Des Moines, Iowa, correct?
That's in Des Moines, Iowa. That's right.
Awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about your customers? So what size fleets are you servicing today? What type of equipment are you typically working on?
We have some freight companies that we work for. Most of ours are independents that have a few trucks. And then we have some single truck people. But we also have folks with cars and pickups that we work on.
So they may not all be freight companies. It used to be primarily freight companies when we started. It's not necessarily freight companies now, but we are still geared more towards fleets, even if it's not hauling freight.
Okay. And you're running 2 shifts, you're only 5 days a week, right?
Day shift is Monday through Friday. Night shift is Monday through Thursday.
Okay.
They get done at 1 o'clock Friday morning and they're done for the weekend until 3 o'clock Monday afternoon.
That's a nice long weekend. I'll take one of those.
Every weekend.
Yeah. That's great. And last one, service trucks. Do you have 3, 4?
We have 4 service trucks. 2 are used on a fairly regular basis, and then we have 2 others if we need them.
So, one of the things I think we highlighted in the teaser for this webinar is, all about employee retention. I mean, you guys have some pretty unbelievable stats when you think about longevity of employees. Can you just tell us a little bit of the highlights of, how many, 30, 35 employees? What's the average tenure like?
I don't know an average off the top of my head, but a couple years ago we had our first couple retire they'd spent their whole career there. So 40 some years they had been there. Our current longest term employee is celebrating 35 years this year. And we have a number that have been there more than 20 years, another number that have been there more than 10.
Wow. I mean, that's really impressive. And without an incredibly specific question, how do you do it? How do you guys think about, building an employee culture and creating a place where people want to stay for that long? Because so many times you see folks just kind of bounce around every few years. Any high level thoughts on that?
I think that may have changed over time. And so when I think about that, when I started, and for a long time while I was in charge, when I was the general manager, the culture of the mechanics, or we're calling them techs now, the culture of the techs was that they found a place they liked and they stayed. And that was common. And the people that we have that have been there for 20 and 30 and 35 years, obviously they're old school people like myself. And so they don't jump around like the newer people. And so we're seeing that the younger generation is a lot more likely to move around. And so it takes a different mindset and a different process to retain those. Fortunately, I have young people that work for us that know that stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if we know it, but we're trying to help our younger people see that they can build a career at our shop, that they don't need to go somewhere else to be successful, that they can grow and move up and earn more money. I had somebody tell me once in another field that you needed to go to another job to move up, and then you could come back to the same company at a higher position. I don't want anyone to ever have to leave our shop to earn the money that they deserve. And so we try to pay people what we think they're worth, and we try to offer them training. Obviously, we have good pay and good benefits, but we believe in treating them the way we would want to be treated. And I guess they know that they can come and see us and talk to us, and we'll try to solve their problems, because Mike and I are in the office every day and we talk to them all the time, and our door is usually open.
And do you find people take you up on that? Do you have pretty good flow of folks who come and chat with you when they have a challenge?
They do. Yeah. If somebody has a question, they'll stop in, or if I'm out in the shop, they'll call me over, visit about stuff. And if we don't know, then we can't address it. But if we do know, then we can see what we can do to make it easier.
What do you do? I mean, I struggled with this at times in my career. It's easy as a leader to stand up in front of a company and say, call me if you need anything. Let me know if you have any concerns. And some people do, but some just won't. I mean, how do you build that in an organization where people feel okay doing it? Do you do anything specific to try to make sure that interaction happens?
So we started a while back having, a few years ago, having monthly, we call them eat and meets. And there are things that we share with employees then too, but then we also take their questions and their suggestions, and I write down what they wonder about or what they would like to change, and we try to solve it before the next meeting if we can. Also, we have service advisors and we have lead techs. And so the lead techs are in contact the closest with the people on their team. And our lead techs have been there longer. And so I've heard them say, you need to go talk to them about that. You don't need to worry. Just go in there. It's easy to talk to them. And so they're helping to breed that culture where it's okay to come and talk to us.
Describe the eat and meet.
So for eat and meets, we buy lunch for the shop. We do a day shift one and a night shift one separately, just because of convenience for their schedules. But we bring in lunch, and different people take turns choosing what we're going to eat, and then we talk about stuff.
If we have things that we need to announce, changes to how we're doing things, or
Sometimes it's how to run full bay more efficiently.
and sometimes it's, we're going to try this and see if it works.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily know, but we're willing to change if it doesn't work.
Anything, Peter, you want to add?
Tell me about your night shift. That seems to be kind of a dying trend in the industry of heavy duty of running night shifts. How are you still able to staff it? How are you still able to keep that going, especially after COVID?
We have always hired to the night shift. Until recently, we weren't able to hire. We wouldn't hire to the day shift. You start on the night shift, you work there until a position opens up on the day shift. And then we start with when a position opens on the day shift, start with the ones that have the most seniority. Do you want to go to days? No, I'm good. And you move down until you find somebody that wants to go to days. Recently, as we have asked people, they're all happy on the night shift. And so then that allowed us to hire straight to days, but we didn't want to pass that up because they have more seniority on nights.
So I think we're in a little bit of a unique situation right now, in that people who are working nights like to be working nights. And I think one of the things that is a draw is the 4-day work week and the long weekends. And that just happens to work for them and their life and their schedule. Also, we always try to have some students from the local community college, and having the night shift gives them an opportunity to get hands-on work. And it's getting harder, like you said, it's getting harder to find a night shift where they can also get some hands-on. So that helps staff our night shift too.
And I think everybody can mean something slightly different on night shift. You're not running like a true third shift schedule, like 11 to 8. You're running 3 to 1.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday, 3 p.m. to 1 a.m.
And some of our people that are on nights, maybe most of them, like that because of the 4-day week, but also we have people that maybe live 50 miles away or 75 miles away. And so that's one less time that they have to drive that thing by working on the night shift. And the fellow that has been there for 35 years has been on days for a long time, but he recently chose to go to nights because he's not married, and it fit his schedule better because he's a kind of a mountain biker. And so he likes to go to these meets and go to these things on the weekends, and it gives him a longer weekend. So we find that for many people, the night shift is not a minus, but it's a plus.
Are you paying any different for nights? I mean, is there an incentive or any type of
We don't.
differential?
No
Don't.
difference.
No. But keep in mind, we always try to pay people what they're worth, and we give raises regularly, sometimes more than annually, depending on how we see people's skills developing.
When we think about, now we're talking about night shift and maybe hiring into the night shift. You got some questions submitted prior to the webinar just around hiring in general. And I want to start from the very beginning. When you started the business, thinking back to making that first or maybe even second technician hire, what was your calculation? How did you think about, is it time to hire, and then actually get yourself convinced to pull the trigger and bring someone in to help you?
Well, I wasn't as smart then as I am now. And so some of it was maybe so, I'm not sure, let's take a chance.
Mhm.
But over the years, I've learned that as I look at the workload and how much overtime are we putting in and how much work are we turning away and how much capital do we have to invest, then that all goes into the decision. So for example, when I hire someone, I'm not going to collect the money right away that they generate. And it isn't just their labor that I need to be able to fund with capital, but I have to be able to fund all the parts that they put on too, because a lot of our customers are credit customers. And by that, I mean they take 30 days to pay, or 45 even sometimes, although we discourage that. So my point is that when we hire a person, we have to have the capital to be able to fund that hire. All right. Then if we do, then we look at how much overtime are we paying and how much work are we turning away. Okay. So then if we think that there's sufficient that we can hire somebody and we can find that person, then we go ahead and do that. Even if we don't think we have quite enough work to keep that fellow busy, because we find that when we have the extra staff, we will accept more work when it comes along than if we didn't have that staff. And so pretty soon that person's completely busy. In the beginning, it was more like, we are so buried here, we need some help. Is there anybody? And back in those days, it was easier to find people than it is today. The market was such that more people were looking for jobs as opposed to more jobs looking for people.
Yeah.
And so it was easier for us to find somebody, try them on, see how they work.
And speaking about hiring then, to Mandy, into HR, it's kind of a function that reports up to you as well. So hiring today, I mean, how is it? Are you challenged to hire technicians? I feel like we're hearing it's getting a little bit easier over the last year or so.
Yeah, and it still remains a challenge. Like Mike said, we have an opportunity to hire to the day shift. And so we thought the thing holding us back was that we were only offering nights. But even when we were looking for an ATech to hire straight to days, that's been difficult to find. But we have Mike and I tried to hone in on a process that works for us. And if we feel like it's not quite right, we change what we do. And we have other people that help us with hiring and help with interviewing. So we have multiple perspectives, but we do a combination mechanical aptitude test along with some mechanical knowledge to get an idea of where they are and how they think. We give them a shop tour so that they can see our culture and the types of things we work on. We work on everything. It's anything under the sun could be there. And that's not right for everybody, but it is right for some. So we need them to see who we are. We have interviews with Mike and me, and then also with their manager that they would be working with. We also use a behavior assessment that we learned about on a previous roundtable, and it's called Job Behaviors. And we feel like that's been helpful for us too. So it's kind of a long hiring process. And I know I've heard some say, you've got to make this fast and get those people in the door. And maybe that's true, but we've settled on this longer drawn out process, and that seems to be working for us.
And how do you find with your process the employee retention is like? I mean, do you typically lose 1 or 2 techs a year? Or are they usually voluntary or involuntary termination?
We generally don't have to fire people.
Right.
Once in a while we do, and we probably wait too long when we do, but we try to work with them and help them to get better. And because there's training that's gone in, and it's going to slow down the process if you have to replace them. But we do have to fire some. Most of the time it's when people leave, and I think it's a generational thing rather than a shop culture.
Yeah.
We find that if the problem is knowledge and ability, generally we can train that.
Mhm.
And we can train them to be what we need them to be. And we have enough work going through there that we don't have to have everyone know everything. And so we can use them at the level they are as we train them to be maybe better for us at a better tech. If, on the other hand, it's their attitude, they can't show up for work, or they can't get along with people, that's more difficult. And so we'll work with that, and we'll help them try to help them understand the changes that need to happen, and then give them time to make those changes. But if it just can't work out, then occasionally, and it's not often,
Not often.
we have to invite them to get more experience somewhere else.
That's a great way to put it. I love that. And are those, when you think of like the behavioral assessment, I mean, that's the kind of thing you're trying to draw out there. It's like, how are they going to work in the shop? Not necessarily can they do the work.
Yeah, and I guess I don't know how the assessments work. I think it's scientific, and it has to do with, do you play well with others, and how do you relate to management, and how do you make decisions? And so far, we think it's led us down the right track. Now, I can say that because we've liked the people that we've hired using that. I don't know if we would have liked the ones that we turned away, and we have turned some away based on the scoring on that exam.
What advice, with 50 plus years of experience doing this, would you say to shop owners that fall into this hiring out of desperation? I just got to have a tech, just got to hire a guy. He shows up. It seems to be there's some shops that fall into that. Do you have any?
I would be very hesitant because culture matters so much to us. And I think if you have a toxic culture, it's going to be tough to retain people. And so I don't want to bring in someone who's toxic just to have someone to turn the wrenches. I would rather have less revenue than toxicity, personally.
We don't have a problem with theft at our shop, and it's not uncommon for toolboxes to be left open. But we've had people that when they leave to go to lunch, they're locking their toolbox because they've worked in environments where if you're not around, you're losing tools. And we don't want that environment.
We would fire someone for that immediately.
Yeah. And that probably goes a long way towards, people wanting to stay there. Like, that's the type of environment, if you can build that culture, that people want to show up to work every day. I mean, I would shudder to think, we're in the studio. If I felt like, oh no, my bag is in the other office down the hall. If I felt worried about that, I would not want to be in that.
Right.
That would be. Got a question around, as we're talking about developing and training. When you think about hiring someone as maybe a junior technician and teaching the job skills, do you guys have any formal training programs where you think about taking a junior technician and putting them on a path to being an A technician?
When people start, they do a lot of services, a lot of PM services. And the reason is because they see a lot of things that are right, but also things that don't look right. And when they see something that doesn't look right, they can ask somebody, is this okay? Or do I need to write this up? And so there's a written process to do a PM, and it's easy to follow, but they're also seeing the things that they can see what's normal and what's not. And they will work with other technicians for a while until the technicians that are working with them say, yeah, I think they've got it. and then they'll continue to do PMs. And if there's a light that needs changed, they may get to do that. But as they do new things, they're doing them with other people, because it's difficult as an independent to find off-site training. And we have a subscription to a program called Today's Class that is 5 questions a day. Log in, take a few minutes, do the questions. You can read the material, and that's all that's required. But then if a guy wants to do more, he can log in afterwards and do different coursework,
Like ASE prep if they choose to go that route.
Oh, wow.
stuff within that program that he can do on his own time. And so we pay them to do the 5 questions as part of their getting to work routine.
Mhm.
And then if they want to do more, they can do that on their own time afterwards.
So our night foreman has the heart of a teacher, and he really takes these young guys under his wing and offers a lot of advice and education along the way. And that's been really helpful for our younger techs and for the shop as a whole. It takes the right person to have the heart of a teacher, but we look for someone with that attitude to be a leader, because we need them to continue training and watching our younger techs.
And talk about the DMAC. The
Which-
students.
We generally have at least 2 students at any given time. Some of them start when they first start the program and they're not sure which end of the wrench to hold. But some of them come later in the program because they've heard about us from other people in the program
What do you mean by program? What are you saying?
in the diesel tech coursework
In the
and
local trade?
in the local school.
Yeah.
And so it's a 2-year program that they go through. And when they get done with school, whatever time that is, sometimes it's 1 o'clock, sometimes it's 4 o'clock. Then they come and work whatever they're comfortable with to be able to get any homework done or be able to get up and be on time and functioning the next day. And so they may work till 9 o'clock, they may work till 11, whatever they're comfortable with.
Is that part of a local high school program?
It's the community college.
Oh, okay, great.
So
How did you get us? So how did, I mean, I think we've talked on webinars in the past around that general concept of get in with some sort of school, because as you can get students in there to do some internships, they can become great technicians. How'd you get hooked up with that college?
in the past, we were hooked up because he went through it, our service manager went through it, others have gone through that program, and the instructors knew them.
And then it
But
was
then those
harder.
instructors retired.
Yeah.
And there was a change at the college and we didn't know anybody anymore, we would get invitations to go to the job fairs, and they would go to the job fairs and find every student there already had a job. And so it was really hard to get someone when larger name brands take all of the new students. What we're looking for is the students who want a career, not just a job through college. We're looking for the ones who want to stay here. But what we ended up doing was inviting the head of the department, and he brought some of his teachers to our shop, and we gave them a tour, and we talked about here's what we do, and here's the hours, and here's what we can offer to your students. And I think that that's been beneficial because now we have more of a relationship. That was more helpful for us than showing up at the local job fair, because now they've been there and they know what type of students we're looking for. If there's someone going through that's going to move to the far corner of the state, then they're probably not our best fit, and they know that, and they'll send them somewhere that wants a tech while he's in school and he's going to move away, and then they'll get another young tech, whereas they know we're looking for people who want to stay here.
And over the years, we have hired a lot of people from the local community college through this program. So they go there during the day, they work for us at night, and to a man, they have all said, we learned more working in the shop than we did at school.
Mhm.
But from our perspective, they learn things in school that we didn't have to bother with teaching them in the shop. And so it's a perfect program for us, and it sounds like it's really working for them. And at the end of the 2-year period, we have a conversation and we look at each other and we say, do you want to work here? And do we want you to work here? And if both of the answers to that is yes, then we make a deal with them. And we've had people that have stayed for many, many years that have come from that program.
Mm-hmm.
We've had people that have come from that program, worked for us for a time, and then gone where the grass was greener, found out it was AstroTurf and you couldn't eat it, and they wanted to come back. And some of them, we let them come back. Others, we're not ready for them again. And so we've had all the experiences, but that's been a very good program for us. And I think it's a very good program for the students as well.
How do you absorb that cost? Are you billing for that young tech's time? Or are they just there to make other techs better? Explain how that works.
Obviously, they don't earn as much hourly as a full-fledged tech, so that's helpful. But if they're to the point where they can do that service on their own, for instance, then we bill whatever is fair for if it's a 3-hour service, we bill the customer for 3 hours. But if it takes them 5 hours, we're still billing the customer for 3 hours, but that student didn't earn as much as a full-fledged tech, so we're still okay. And as their skills improve and we're able to bill more and more of their time, their wages go up. They get raises all the way through school, not just once a year, because we want to make sure that we keep them and that they don't come to the end of their school career and decide they don't like us anymore. We want to keep the ones that we invest in.
So we're talking with those who we've paired them with and reviewing the jobs. When they get done with a service, if they've done it on their own, especially, somebody will go and look at it and make sure that it's a quality job.
Yeah.
And because we don't want a bad PM to go out the door just because a student did it. It still needs to be a quality job. And as those experienced techs are looking at it, then they can help us know whether the students are making it or not also.
And what do you find a typical success rate for that program is? For every 5 kids that come in, you hire 1 or all 5?
Can you think of any that we didn't hire at the end of school?
Not at the end.
We've
had some that have had to go away during the program.
Yeah.
It didn't work out. But if they've made it through, generally they're able to continue on if they want to.
They usually want to, and we usually want them.
We had one who moved back home, which is a couple hours away after school was over, but that wasn't, I would say, a lack of success. Rather, it was the pull of home, and you can't argue that. So I would say it's pretty high success.
That's great.
But also keep in mind, we want the students to be there, and we think that they're to our advantage as opposed to we don't view them as a drag. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We think they're a real opportunity for us, and we want to invest in them.
We're not just doing them a favor,
Yeah.
but it's good for us too.
ATECs generally aren't looking for a job. And so you have to grow an ATEC. And getting them right at the beginning seems to be where we're the most successful.
And that helps them to learn right off what our culture is and to fit into that culture. Sometimes it's hard to train a bad culture out of a tech that you get from another shop. But if you're training that culture in from the beginning, that's helpful.
Yeah.
Have you found that there's any benefits to your existing technicians from them teaching the younger technicians? I mean, does it make them better techs?
I think it does. It helps them solidify their knowledge. Also, it can help with patience because they see what's going on, and I think they can see that they have been there also. Some, it's more recent than others.
You mean like they remember when they were a young tech and someone who helped them out, and now
Right.
they want to pay that forward and help out a young guy.
And not everyone is cut out to work with students.
Right.
It takes a certain kind of a person, and we try to reward that by making sure that it doesn't cost them in their productivity because they're helping someone else.
Well, and that's kind of part of my question on that was, how do you do that so the technician doing the teaching isn't, because no matter what you do, he's going to get slowed down. Got to stop, answer question. How do you make that all fair to that technician and encourage him to be a teacher versus
So we
just a
want
doer?
we want the lead tech, we'll call him in this case, to clock on to the job that he's helping with. So in that case, you would have the lead tech and the student both clocked on to what they're working on, and the lead tech gets credit for all of his time.
Okay.
Yep. And so then, and our philosophy is that when that student doesn't need the lead tech anymore, then they will increase their own productivity because now they don't have someone else. So the lead tech gets the credit and the student begins to earn.
So he's
credit.
motivated that way. too.
Yeah.
That's right. And so when the student has the lead tech helping him, then that affects the student's productivity, not the lead tech's productivity.
Right.
Maybe that's a good transition for a discussion around comp and incentivization. You want to dig into that a little bit?
There's a lot of questions that come out about how do you pay technicians? How do you hold them accountable? What are you guys using for a payment system or a compensation package? What's your philosophy?
Like wages, we pay hourly, but we have an opportunity to earn a bonus. Anybody in heavy duty knows it's pretty hard to flat rate stuff because there's so many variables and the books all say different stuff. So we go on years of experience, partially with the books, but if they can do a job faster than book, then, and we're able to bill longer and still be fair to the customer, then they earn a bonus for that additional amount of time that they were able to go faster. Does that make sense?
Let me say it another way. We're paying them from the time they get there in the morning until the time they leave at night hourly.
Mhm.
Then, as they're assigned a job where there is a book time, for example, a water pump on a Cummins or whatever, maybe that's supposed to take 4 hours. And if they're able to do it in 3 hours, then we bonus them that extra hour. So they're motivated then to do the best they can because they have that opportunity to earn the bonus. And most of them want to earn those bonuses. Some people, particularly the old people, don't seem to care as much about the bonus. But they're also not just dallying around. They're doing the best they can. They just don't maybe make the bonuses often. I don't know if any of you here are old enough to know, but it's harder when you're older. Everything's harder, except sleeping in the chair. That's easier. But anyway, so having an opportunity to earn that extra hour of bonus money keeps them doing the best they can. And that's really the only reason that you're paying off of a flat rate anyway, is so that they'll do the best that they can. However, if they have trouble and instead of 4 hours, it takes them 5 hours, then they're not causing a big trouble about it because they're being paid for that extra hour. If they were on straight commission or straight flat rate, that extra hour would be on them. This isn't, because we're paying them from morning till night. So it's a kind of a hybrid system, and our people really like that. And most of them take home bonus money every week.
But there's a minimum standard of performance that we need people to achieve too. And generally we don't have trouble achieving that.
Also, if a job comes back, we can see who did the work the first time, and we don't charge them for it,
The customer.
the customer or the technician. But if we see things coming back too much for a technician, then we can take them off of the bonus program because they're hurrying too fast and they're not paying attention to their quality.
They can earn their right to get back on the bonus program by not having comebacks.
Can you explain that a little bit more? Because that's one of the big areas right now is tech distraction and accountability. How does that work in your shop to where you're able to do that? Pull someone off of it and put it back on? Is there a conversation? Do they all know this is how it works when they get hired? How does that?
Are you talking about distractions?
Well, a little bit of both, because I think that in modern society, it seems like a lot of comebacks may be led, caused by distractions.
That's what we always assume too. We do let them know what our standard is, and our standard is leave your cell phone alone while you're working. That seems to be an incredibly difficult concept. I don't know that we have it figured out, but that is our standard and we work towards it. I have had to invite some of them to do whatever it takes to leave their phone alone. If that means leaving it in their car, then leave it in your car, because I would hate for you to lose your job over your phone. And I would go that far, because we can't have mistakes because you went to check a text that had nothing to do with anything.
You didn't torque something because of this text and you forgot to go back to it.
Spun a bearing, ruined an engine, killed children, whatever.
Have you done anything in your shop to try to remove distractions from technicians? I mean, do you structure the environment in such a way where you're trying not to, to trying to diminish the distractions at all?
We have not. Philosophically, we've discussed it, and I have kids at home. These are not my kids. And so I want them to have the self-control to take care of this themselves when I set the standard. And if they can't, that's when there's going to be a problem. I don't want to police it. I don't want to take their phone when they show up at work. I mean, that's something you do in school, not something I should have to do in a professional environment. But that's been our philosophy.
But that is a struggle with the current generation because they're tied to the phone. And we see it in work. We see it in car wrecks, people on the phone while they're driving, and you can't do two things at once.
So we have another way that we kind of help the productivity happen, and that is we have teams and we have team leaders. And this team leader can be bonused based on the production of his team. And so he's not only thinking about his production, he's thinking about the production of his team. And they're hopefully all working in the same general area. That doesn't always happen. It's a pretty big shop, but that's the plan. And so then he's kind of watching, are you having any trouble? Anything I can do for you? Is this looking good? Are you doing okay? Because he wants them to be productive too, because he's going to get not only his productivity bonus, but something if his team does well. And so from that standpoint, he's the one that's out there watching them, whether they're fooling with their phone all the time or not. Because we're in the office, and by we, I mean they are in the office. And so that helps us with the distractions too, because they've in effect got a foreman right there helping them.
It almost sounds like you guys have created a culture of kind of self-policing in the shop. Is that kind of what you're
Policing sounds so harsh, but yes. I mean, I want them to have enough self-control that they can take care of themselves. I also want them to have, like their lead tech that they can talk to that's kind of looking over them and keeping them on track. And like he mentioned, our lead techs are bonused based on their own productivity, but as a team, they're based on the team productivity and the team utilization. So that, we want people to clock from one job to the next, not clock off and stand around for 20 minutes shooting the breeze and then go get another job. So that's why we pull utilization into.
So how does the tech know if they're doing good or not? Are those numbers shared with them? Do you have a formula that you use?
So we use what we consider productivity, and I know Full Bay uses the word efficiency. So what we call productivity is how much time a tech spent on a job compared to how much time we're able to bill the customer for a job and still be fair. That's what we call productivity. I pull that data out of Full Bay every week when I run payroll, spin it through some Excel spreadsheets and spit it out. And they each get a paper every week showing what billed. And so the productivity that we're paying on is only after a job is closed, of course. And so the paper they get is the jobs that have closed last week that I'm paying for this week. I mean, I pay all their hours, but the bonus is on jobs that closed last week. Is that what you're mentioning? Yeah.
Also, by giving them the report every week, the work is fresh in their mind.
Mm-hmm.
And so they can look at the report and say, that doesn't look right. And they can ask us to understand better whether we made a mistake or if there was something that they didn't know related to that job.
So then hopefully it's still fresh enough that it can be a learning opportunity if we need to learn something from it.
Also, somewhat changing topics, but we had an interesting conversation last night around labor rates and your costs and how you think about setting those. So many times I think people look at, well, what is my competition charging? Okay, I have to be within X percent of that, and that's how I'm going to set my rates. If they raise their rates, I can raise mine. But you're much more thoughtful than that. Can you talk a little bit about how you've thought about your rates over time?
Yeah, the challenge with the method that you're talking about is that assumes that my competition knows how to set their rates. And I'm not so confident that they do. And so what I think is the proper method is you need to know what your costs are, your fixed costs, and your costs of variable, like the employment costs and the cost of your techs. You need to cover your costs. But then you have an investment. In our case, we have an investment in the facility and in the equipment. We have a large investment, and all the truck shop owners have a large investment. You need to be getting a return on that investment. If you sold all that stuff and put that money in the market, you would get a return. You need to get at least that return from the investment you have in your equipment and your facility. So we have our costs we need to cover. We need to get our return on investment, and we need to get what we think is a proper, normal, fair profit. We add those three things together, and we divide that out among the number of hours that we think we're going to be able to sell. Based on our history, we know about what we can sell. And then that gives us what we think we need to have per hour. Then we take that number and we look at the competition and say, does that compete in the market? If it does compete in the market, we're on our way. So we're still looking at the market. We know what the guy down the street is charging per hour. But we have a little more maybe scientific method to find out if that's going to make us successful or not. And so then if that doesn't compete in the market, then we're going to need to change some things. We have to look at our costs. What are we doing? Can we do that more efficiently? We need to look at how many hours we're selling, because if we can sell more hours and the fixed costs remain the same, obviously the profit goes up. We need to look, are we being realistic with our return on investment? Are we being realistic on the amount of profit that we think is fair and proper? We can adjust those numbers if we're not competing in the market. Fortunately, because of efficiencies that we've been able to learn over the last 50 years, when we figure those things, we do compete in the market. And so we're able to make those things. We're not just seeing what Joe is charging and being there with him.
And I'm sure you've got an example or two of a time where a big customer's come to you and said, well, I appreciate, Dick, how you set your labor rate. I need a discount because I'm giving you so much business. Every shop has run into that. And I think they all handle it somewhat differently, right? Some are scared that business is going to walk out the door. How have you handled it? What advice would you give to people when they're in that situation?
So this is what happened. We were working for 3 different freight companies, and we had a special rate for freight companies, a discounted rate for freight companies. But then those 3 freight companies consolidated together until they were one freight company. And then that was about 30% of our business at that time. And so then that maintenance manager for that company came to us and said, we are bringing a lot of business here. We need to have a better rate. And my response was, you're already on a better rate. And they said, no, we need a better rate than that. And so they tossed out a number that they were willing to pay per hour. Well, since we already knew what our costs were and we knew what our rate needed to be, it was easy to say, no, we can't function at that rate. That will cost us money.
It was below our cost of operation.
Below our
we
cost
knew
of,
that.
below our cost of operations. And so they said, but yes, but think of how many hours we will bring. How many? And I said, well, if it's below the cost of our operation, the more hours we work for you, the worse off we are. And so, no, we're unable to do that. And they said, well, then we're going to have to find someone else. And then we said, yes, you're going to have to find someone else. So we had to hold the line, because if we had just looked at the volume of revenue that they would bring in without regard to what it cost us to get that revenue, then we would have operated at a loss every time we worked on their trucks, and we wouldn't be able to sustain that. Now, we might be able to, since they were only 30%, But were we willing to lose the 30%? Well, that affected us. That was difficult, but it had to be done. And so we did do that. We let them go. And that was a number of years ago. Now all three of those freight companies are gone and we're still there. And so I think you have to have the courage to make decisions that will keep you profitable, even though it may cost you revenue in the short run. It has been good for us in the long run. I think that's been 10 years ago, probably.
It's been longer than that probably, because it was when I first came back from college. But at that time, knowing that there was this huge chunk, we talked to the employees and said, we're letting them go. And so that's going to affect the hours of work. So we did limit to no more than 40 hours and until we could bring in work to fill that gap. And we didn't know how long that would last. How long would it take to fill in 30%? But in my memory, it was, I don't know,
Couple weeks.
it wasn't very long at all.
Well, I think it might have been more than a couple of weeks, but as we had more hours available, the business just flowed in, and so it wasn't a problem, and people could work the overtime that they wanted to, and it was okay. The point of the whole thing is you need to know what your costs are so that you will make decisions that are going to be good for your company.
But I think that know how low they can go before it no longer makes sense.
So Full Bay has been very helpful. It used to be very tedious for me to figure this stuff. And back when that happened, I went through all kinds of mathematical gymnastics to come up with the answer. But Full Bay has made it a lot easier because it's so easy to get the data out. I can have number of hours billed just like that for any customer, for any group of customer, for any time period I want. And it's so much faster than it used to be. So that's
It's
been
almost like we teed this question
Yeah,
up.
I
And
don't know.
and we didn't.
No, we didn't talk about that before, but every year when it comes time to look at our labor rate, I'm like, oh, not such a big deal. I can get that data easily now.
Well, and it's also easy for us to determine which customers are our favorite customers.
Right.
And shop owners know this. You can be a favorite customer or not a favorite customer, not just on your revenue, but on your attitude. How do they act when they talk to us on the phone? That can help. But also, we need to know how much revenue that customer is worth.
Yeah.
How much are they bringing in? How much trouble are they? And so Full Bay can help us to know if this is a valuable customer or not. And we've taken to learning what our valuable customers look like, which ones are our favorites, and then trying to decide what do they all have in common. That's the kind of customer we want to go and recruit. We want more of those kind. And we want to take care of these that we have. And so we've taken to going and seeing them and taking them some swag and helping them know that we appreciate them and asking them, what can we do better for you? In other words, we will court those favorite customers.
Yeah.
And part of that is you got to know not only the revenue they bring in, but the profit they bring in.
Absolutely. Well, as I told you, the hour goes by pretty darn quick. And so we only got a few minutes left. There's a couple of questions that are going to be quick, I think, answers. Somebody wanted just the specific name of that behavioral assessment you were using for hiring.
It's Job Behaviors, and it's spelled JOBEH. There's only one B in it. So
Job
it's
Behaviors.
Job
with one B.
Behaviors. One B.
All right.
Yep.
Awesome. How do you guys handle tools for technicians? Do they get a tool allowance? Are you providing tools? Bring your own at your cost? How do you think through that?
Technicians supply their own, what I call hand tools.
Mhm.
The shop has some of the bigger specialty tools, engine specific things, but we also give them what we call a tool allowance. And I think it's $40 a week, but I don't know because I don't get it because I don't get to buy tools anymore.
Yeah.
But realistically, it's just an added benefit. They can go buy flowers for their girlfriend or their wife. It doesn't dictate that that's for tools, but it does help it be a little bit easier to pay the tool guy each week.
Yeah, absolutely. Back to this concept of the productivity. How many, when you think of a technician who's maybe to be clocked in for 8 to 10 hours that day, in your mind, what % of those hours would you like to be billing? Is the target 100%, 110, 90?
So I think of that as two different numbers. One is utilization,
Mhm.
which is how much of the time they're clocked in, are they clocked onto a ticket? And we want that to be 90 or above. And then of the time they're clocked onto a ticket, we want to bill 90% of that or above.
Okay.
Now, depending on the job, some jobs are easy to make time on. And so we have people who consistently do more than 100, but 90 is our minimum.
Right.
Unless you're a student, then there's different rules for you.
And that was the last quick question that somebody had was around the students. Full-time, part-time benefits, I assume part-time, no benefits?
They are part-time and we let them choose their hours. And it kind of depends on the student. Sometimes we'll have students going through who have a family and they need the benefits and they need the hours. And so as long as they can swing both, then they're allowed to work full-time. It's at their discretion. And so full-time benefits start at 30 hours. And that's a lot, but it's not uncommon for students to work 30.
Oh, that's great. Anything else from you, Peter?
That's it.
Well, we really appreciate you guys making the trip down to see us here in Phoenix, and thank you for all the information. I mean, we have shop owners come in every quarter, and the Bascom story is one of the most impressive ones I've heard. And the generational business and the thoughtfulness in which you've kind of handed it over. Yeah, it's really impressive. So thank you guys for sharing
Thank you.
with Peter and I and with the audience. I think that people have a lot to take away from you. So with that, we'll say a wrap on our January webinar. I think hopefully we got you signed up to come do another one with me. We'll get back and do another one here next quarter. But in the meantime, if anyone hasn't registered for Diesel Connect, I did hear you guys are going to attend Diesel Connect for the first time coming up in May. We'll encourage you. I think the website is dieselconnectshow.com. It's coming up here in May in Phoenix. So a couple days of great networking opportunities. We'll have a lot more learning tracks this year around the full bay product, but also kind of business related sort of coaching and tips. So it should be a great show. We'll look forward to seeing everybody here in a few months in Phoenix. So with that, thanks again to the panel, and we'll let everybody go. Have a happy Tuesday.
Thank you.